What is up, everybody? I'm a Valentine here. Welcome back to another video on Alma's World. I got a coffee hat. Y'all might be like, Alma, you're wearing the same outfit as your last video. That's because it's the same day. And also, I kind of rotate the same clothes. So, anyways, there is that out the way. I don't know, I always perceive that people that watch me are like very judgmental, but you know what? Like I said in the last video, I'm trying to think about like this being among friends. Anyways, let me tell you my intentions for this video. I'm making this video because I am in the process of trying to understand a wealth mindset and trying to figure out things that I can create that create wealth. So rather than me just thinking of like, okay, how can I get rich this year? Like, what video is gonna make me rich this year? What video is gonna make my channel blow up and get rich this year? So I was looking in the mirror, looking at myself, because I started off by like complaining to myself, like, because I was asking myself, I was like, Alma, what are you doing? Because I was scrolling on YouTube Shorts. They got me locked. It's bad. But I was scrolling and I was like, Alma, like, what are we doing? Like, we're not spending time doing something that's, going to create any wealth. So I got up and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, Alma, what are you doing? I was like, I don't want to do anything. Like, this is literally me in the mirror to myself. And I was like, I don't want to do anything. Like, that's the voice I was saying out loud. I looked at myself, I was like, I don't want to do anything. And I was like, what do you mean you don't want to do anything? And I was like, I don't want to do anything. And I was like, well, that's not going to help you. It's not going to help you just because you don't want to do anything. And I was like, what do you want, Alma? And I was like, that's what I said. I said to myself, like, well, the more that you do now to create wealth, the less you'll have to do anything in the future. That's what I said to myself. And I was like, okay, so let's think. I was like, what can I do to create wealth? And like, I was trying to think of what I can actually do right now that's practical, because I keep trying to do up all these business plans, but they all take so much money. Like, I bought that heat press, I bought that Cricut machine over there as well. It was so expensive. Is it over $1,000? No, that's just all the materials and supplies. It's either a little bit under or a little bit over $1,000. Just on supplies I've bought of stuff that I intend to make money from, like this. So over $1,000 in supplies, haven't seen a penny back from it, right? So I'm trying to figure out, like, there's obviously something that I'm missing here, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's a business plan, maybe it's this. These things are so external and they take time and effort, and the thought of like, oh, I should work within my gifts, that was said to me the other day. And then like I talked about in the last video, something my dad said to me the other day on WhatsApp was like, because I sent like an hour-long message and I was like, whoa. And at the end of it, I was like, thanks for coming to my podcast. Like, I'm sorry this was so long. But he was like, the music that you make is like butter, but your ability to communicate is like milk. And I was like, whoa, poetic. Y'all see where I get from. But poetic, right? And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And he was like, honestly, I feel like there's more that you could probably do on the communication aspect than you really think about. He's like, if you want to be able to understand that, like, you can do that, but there's probably more that you can do that you probably haven't really thought that you could do, like, just in the communications aspect, right? And when he said that, I was like, that's interesting you say that. And I still haven't looked for like a communications job, which I think that maybe I could. But sometimes I just feel like I can't really do much in this world. Like, I don't know why, but I kind of feel like that. Like, and at the same time, I have this belief that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I feel like things can happen very quickly, or, I believe in miracles, I believe in God, and I believe that you should try to do anything you put your mind to. So, yeah, there was that, right? Like I was talking about my intentions for this video. So as I looked at myself in the mirror, I was like, what do I have? And I was like to create wealth, what could I do? And I was like, I looked at my YouTube channel earlier today and I was just looking at it. I was like, this just needs more stuff. It just needs more of me in here talking and posting consistently. It just needs more of it. It's not even that the ones I have are bad. It's just it needs to be more of them. They're so spaced out. There's like 4 from the last 4 weeks. And then there's just like 1 from 3 months ago, 1 from 4 months ago, 1 from 6 months ago. That's way too far apart. If it was like a wealth of things that I said, a wealth of entertainment, a wealth of knowledge that was shared, then it could create wealth because it stays on the internet forever. And by the time that, you know, it starts, it's a cycle of itself. So as long as people find something of value in the video and have need for the value that I put into it, especially if I'm putting like a very special part of my value, like my ability to translate thoughts, my ability to communicate, my ability to translate a philosophy and give something to the world where it could help better someone else, inspire someone else, expand their mental horizons, or make them think of something new, that's valuable. So with that thought, I started to think about, well, how can I do that? And I was like, well, I guess I could just teach them what I know to be true. So my goal and my reason of me even making this video and some of the videos going forward, many of the videos going forward, will be to create wealth for myself and also to create some type of wealth for you or within you, whether that's emotional, maybe it's something that's physical, like you learn something to apply to your physical life, or did I say internal? I think I said internal. Or maybe it's something that's emotional, or maybe even metaphysical, some sort of metaphysical wealth, some wealth that can't be traced and backed only by money. Which now I think about it, isn't that an intangible asset? Like, isn't that, like, wealth is an intangible asset. I'm trying to learn about assets and like what's the difference between certain things. But yeah, something that can't be defined by an amount of money. Priceless, if you will. So I intend to try to give you my priceless perspective. All right. I hope the cost is not too high. Oh, that's funny. No, I don't. I hope you get me. Anyways, let me get into this video. So this video is going to be about what I learned from The Richest Man in Babylon. So The Richest Man in Babylon is a book that my dad sent me last summer. It was such a divine timing to receive the book because I had been on this wave of, I'm an artist, I don't need money. I'm an artist, I can make it without it. Like, God's gonna save me. I'm gonna be fine. Like, I don't need to be working some job. I don't need a job because I'm an artist and I'm smart and I have to figure it out and I have to put myself in a position to where I have to figure it out, because then if I don't, then I'll die. So I have to figure it out and I'm gonna figure it out and it's gonna be fine. I don't need a job. What was funny was I had prayed to God to make an extra $1,000 on this certain month, right? Tell me why CSO Plasma, where I was donating plasma, had this special going on where you made $1,000. You can make $1,000 in a month from the donations. That was my extra $1,000. Isn't that crazy? So things really, and I wrote this down too, before this even happened. But I was donating plasma, and that's how I was living, and I was barely living. My rent is currently about $558. I live in this, it's like student housing, but it's basically they rent out room by room. Thankfully, I am blessed to be living by myself, which is really crazy, and like one of those blessings where I take for granted, definitely. Like the fact that I've been blessed to even be here, like how I'm here, that is a priceless blessing as well. So thank you, God, for that. But yes, that's my rent right now. So that's what my rent was too, even then. So I was donating plasma in the heat of summer, and barely eating. There was a point where I asked my dad, I was like, man, can I have like $100? I'm starving. Like, I'm hungry. Like, I'm just hungry. And he sent me $100, and I have to repay him for that. And that reminds me of something I thought about today from Richest Man in Babylon. So there is this part in the Richest Man in Babylon where he talks about, you know what, now I think about it, I've seen this in budgeting things before, of the 10%, 20%, 70% rule. But it's where 7/10 of your income, which is 70%, goes into your living. You still have to eat food, you still have to, pay living expenses, and you still have to live, right? Even while you're working. Excuse me. 20% goes towards paying off your debts. And that's the one I realized today. I haven't been purposely putting aside that 20% or taking that 20% and paying off my debts. For example, I owe my dad at least $600, I think, something like that. At least $600. And he was like, you're my daughter, you don't owe me this. But I owe him a good $600. And yeah, so I haven't been putting aside that 20% of what I am making, or making the sacrifice of purposely putting aside that 20% of what I'm making. And instead, I've been definitely living on 7/10, and there's the 1/10 of your income just goes away. It goes away, not to be spent, because it's for you. You should keep that 10% rule, save that 10% rule, right? Until there comes a point where that money is able to work for you. And I'll come back to that. So I realized today that I haven't been putting aside that 20%. And what I've been doing instead is, I know I'm definitely living on at least 7%, but I've just tried not to spend less or spend more than a certain amount out of even what I make. Or I try to keep my bank account looking juicy, basically. It hasn't been working, honestly, because we had this time off work, and I just left a different job of mine. And now the bank account is looking a little thin, and I don't like that. Even though my savings account, my 10%, is pretty good. I'm being told in my head to just tell you what I have. Right now I have about $1,000 in my savings account. So you do the math. That's 10% of $10,000, pretty much. So over the past 5 months, maybe 6 months, that's what I've been able to make. And that's 10% on like everything I've made. Any money that has come into my account, that's what I've made. But I'll let you do the math and spread that money and see what that money is really talking about. I need to make more money. You get what I'm saying? So, well, just thinking about it. But yeah, so I thought about that. I thought that was really important. And I have noticed, though, throughout this about 5-6 months that I have been saving that 10%, I see how much safer I feel by having that money in the account and knowing and trusting myself that I'm not going to be dipping in and out of it, because I know that it's not going to do me any good. One of the things I really like about the Richest Man in Babylon is that, and this might need to have a part 2, but I really like the way that it talks about money. And it talks about it in the term of gold, right? So one of the things that was said was that, it can quickly leave you, right? Like, the money has ways to quickly leave you, and many opportunities for the gold to quickly leave your pockets. And I thought that was really interesting, because there's so many different ways that money has left my pockets and continues to be tempted to leave my pockets. I mean, even things as simple as like the want to, and the Richest Man in Babylon talks about this too, the want to earn quick and high profits. There's so many things that we spend money on because we think that it will have quick returns. I mean, think about like courses telling you. I saw this ad for this coaching thing saying how to become an $80,000 coaching, like how to have an $80,000 coaching session. And I was just like, what? Like, I feel like there's so many people selling you various things that I feel like maybe they themselves, it just doesn't seem like they themselves would really have all of that experience with it. And it feels a bit like forced. It feels a bit like not new. It's not specific. There's something about it that's not genuine. Something about it that's missing something, missing heart. It's like I can see when someone's doing something to gain something versus to like really impart something with someone, which is funny. It's ironic for me even to say when I've stated why I'm making this video. But at the same time, it's like making money through this word falsities. That doesn't sit right with me. I just don't think I can do that. But yeah, there's many ways for money to leave the pockets, even with things like makeup. The allure of new products, the allure of things that are so pretty and so nice. And I love how the Richest Man in Babylon talks about this in a comparison of robes versus an investment. So I might butcher this, but there was one point where they were telling the story of a man and his wife who had the choice between buying new robes, like the nicest robes that him and his wife could have had in that time, and they were all the rage that season, right? And so, or that year in that season. So there's the fun of robes. There's a like, whoa, like people will really respect these robes. And then there was an opportunity for this man to put the same money that he would have put into the robes into putting behind this really solid plan that would have made him a very wealthy man, a very comfortable man. So in the end, the man chose to buy those robes for him and his wife, while the people that still did put their money into that plan, that really solid plan, actually made plenty and plenty and plenty of gold to continue to follow them, right? And to continue to have, and I want to say for like the rest of their life, something like that. And the man bought the robes for him and his wife. And once they had them, that was all there was to it. They just had the robes. And the robes, and now I think about this, in the terms of like wealth, or at least what I know of wealth now, those robes don't have the ability to appreciate in value. Like clothes, like something like that, like just some robes, the only chance for it to appreciate in value is if in the future at some point, if it's preserved like well, for someone to call it vintage one day, like as a collector. Like that's the only like random one-off way for it to appreciate in value. But most likely, especially if they were bought with the intention to wear them, those robes would get torn, they would get dirty, they would get messed up, they would, become something that gets thrown out when the people die. Those robes are not something that will continue to appreciate in value. And now think about it in comparison to something like a building, right? A building can appreciate and depreciate based on like the value of it. It can appreciate based on how much that city is a place that is looked to be moved to. So you can increase the rent of a place based on how popular it is in that city. I keep biting my cheek while I talk. Like, y'all, I've been eating so much stuff. I just need to eat more, like, veggies and fruits, but I hate some podges now. I've been eating a lot of oranges lately, and I can hardly see a difference in myself and how much better I feel, and feel like I look brighter and things like that. But anyways, let me continue. A building, based on how, like I said, how popular the building is, or how popular the city is, or the land that it's on, or the popularity of the restaurant that's in it, that has the ability to appreciate and value over time. Like how much it can earn can appreciate and value, but the value will never be zero, right? Like I learned that yesterday, the day before yesterday, something about that. But I kind of get it. I'm like, oh, it'll never be zero because there will always be some use for it. There will always be a potential use for it, right? But with robes, those robes, who would pay more for secondhand robes from a regular man rather than, you know, something like a place to stay, like a necessity? A necessity. Think about that, a necessity. And even compare the robes to a really solid business model, a really solid business plan, a business model that is so perfected that there's no way that it will fail, especially if it's something that's based on the needs of the people, right? So the needs of something that will create tools, that will create food items, or like tools that will create technology items that help build Wi-Fi, or even something like, for me, I dabbled in the cafe field. So, I mean, a space of community even, which is debatable on how absolutely necessary it is. I feel like the necessity of that comes from the need of a space outside of the home to connect and to build communities and to talk about things that are important, or to work on things that are important and maybe not easiest to do when you're at home. That is debatable though. It's definitely a debatable topic, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like new robes versus investing in a really solid business plan. Those robes aren't worth shit. They're not worth shit for real. So it's like those robes are shining and you're looking at those robes like those are gas. Like if I was wearing those robes, I would look so fire. But it's like you can either invest in the robes or you can invest in this new building or this new opportunity that is guaranteed to make you so much money and be worth so much. And it's the way that the man even missed out on this opportunity. He didn't know how to spot it. He didn't know that it was a good opportunity until it was gone. He didn't recognize the difference in the value until it was gone. He thought, you know, this will be the only chance in my life for me to buy these robes. What he didn't know was that it's very rare for that type of opportunity to come by to you, especially if you're not taking it when you see one. And I really, really, really love how they, not personified, but godified, is that a word? They godified luck, and they called, or goddessified luck. I think I'm making that up. I'm not sure. Maybe it is already a word. But the goddess of good luck. I love that part. And they talked about the goddess of good luck does not come to the men that procrastinate. And they use man as a general term, which I'm not offended. I hope you're not. Let's see. But yeah, she doesn't come to men who procrastinate. So the goddess of good luck oftentimes comes to those that are already in a state of like movement, doing something, and not waiting around for something. Like hard workers. The goddess of good luck can come to hard workers. And now that I really think about it, I have procrastinated so much. And there's so many things I spend time just worrying about instead of actually doing something about. And yeah, so anyways, I can give you an example of where this has showed up in my real life though. So last weekend, I decided to do this thing for Outcast Connect, which y'all know I got Outcast Connect in this vision, right? It was like, to put it simply, the point is to create communities for those people that have felt like they're alone. Yeah, that's to put it simply. So I suddenly, like on Thursday, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this happen. Like I was thinking about it on Wednesday, but on Thursday I was talking to my friend. I was like, you know what? I want to do this thing. Like I'm thinking about it. What do you think? She was like, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Cool. Put together the flyer. It was a very cute flyer. So 114, 2023. Sent out some invites. A bunch of people were like, oh, I'm out of town. Da da da. It seems cool. Da da da. All of that. There's actually a couple of messages from there that I have not read back yet, because what ended up happening was no one came. Not even the friend that said that, yeah, she'd come and that, it was a good idea. None of that. So I was really disappointed. And I cried while I was, there at Optimist Hall. Just some tears, like, flew from my eyes. Not flew, but just slowly trickled down from my eyes. And I simply wiped them away once or twice, right? A couple times. So, my wig is itching my wig. My wig. So yeah, I sat there and I thought about maybe why would God make this happen for me? Why does God want this for me? What is God trying to say to me? Is God trying to tell me that I should plan things further out? Is God trying to tell me that I messed up? That I maybe should have invited people even though I felt like I shouldn't? Is God trying to say that I should have promoted it more? What is God trying to say? And I didn't force myself to jump to a conclusion, especially out of an emotional state. I wanted it to be clear, because usually when you make a mistake, you can kind of feel where you messed up, or where you know that, like, hey, I gotta get better about this. I messed up this time because of this. But I didn't feel that, right? And quick reference to The Alchemist, but there's this moment in there at the very end of The Alchemist where he talks about, like, there was a kiss from the wind that was sent from the wind, and he knew that wind. There was this weird moment of wind. How was there wind? Maybe someone had left a door open, but there was this weird moment of wind while I was wondering why I was there alone, why no one showed up. And when I felt that wind, I was like, that's that wind. What is the wind saying? And it was like this, it was very specific, that wind. It was like, it wasn't just wind because I was passing by. It was like the wind was saying something. And I think it was. The wind was saying something. But I hadn't deciphered it yet in that moment. But the wind did trigger me to think about The Alchemist. So I thought, as I colored there, it was supposed to be a color and connect. So as I colored there, after I'd already eaten my sandwich and I had already started drinking my coffee, which I was upset at first with the coffee because I thought that it didn't really have any flavor, but it just turned out the flavor was at the bottom. So when I started holding it all the way up to sip, the camera will come down. It's good. So I actually was coloring, and I had been coloring even, when I would cried a little bit, but I continued coloring. And I had decided to turn on The Alchemist and listen to that audiobook on YouTube. And when I looked up The Alchemist audiobook on YouTube, I saw The Richest Man in Babylon. And I decided to turn it on again. And it was leaving off from a place where I had started listening to it again earlier. So the place that it had left off at, funny enough, was the part about the goddess of good luck comes to those who don't procrastinate. And suddenly, this man that used to give me good words of advice on Sundays at Archive suddenly appeared. And I won't tell you who it was. I feel like it's best not to. But I'll say that he is a very wealthy man. And what this man proceeded to do was sit down and give me a whole lesson on wealth. A whole lesson on wealth. I want to show you, I'm back and forth. The voice is telling me to show you. Well, show you I shall. Oh, okay. This is the notebook. This is the notebook that I had. Not the notebook, the coloring book. I will not show you what he wrote, but I will show you what I colored. Where is it? Is it here? Maybe I won't. I don't see it here. I thought I saw some color just now. Did I not? Ooh, I'm sorry, I lied. I won't. But this is the book. No, I won't show you. But basically, he gave me this lesson. He sat down for, did I say an hour and a half? About an hour and a half. I couldn't really even tell how much time it was. But it felt very magical. And he explained some things about wealth. Some things about poor mindset versus wealthy mindset. And how God rules over all of that. And I really, really appreciated the lesson and the conversation. And it was such a blessing. And now that I think about it, that wind was a special wind. That wind was telling me something. It was saying, there's something coming. There's someone coming. This is a special moment. You're right where you're supposed to be. I loved that. So there's that part. Now, with the goddess of good luck, was it just the goddess of good luck? There was more, but another part of the Richest Man Babylon, it said how there will come an opportunity to invest this money that you save, right? To invest this money that you work so hard for when you put 1/10 of your earnings away. So I have been saving that money diligently, about $1,000. And I'm not really sure where to put it just yet. I'm not sure if I should even put it somewhere just yet. And they specifically said something about like in a year's time, something like that. And it hasn't been quite a year. Like I said, it's been about 6 months. So I was wondering today if maybe instead of me trying to think of ways to plan and spend and how to use it right now, I should instead use what I have and just leave it, let it grow. Give it that full year, maybe even. Or maybe I just feel like when I'm actually supposed to use it, I'll know. And I'm sure that God will give me those signs. But God hasn't given me those signs yet. And I think a lot. But I should wait until God tells me that I should, make those certain moves. So, what else do I want to tell you about what I learned from the Richest Man in Babylon? Today I was listening to some more of it again from where I left off last time that I was, listening to it, which was on last Saturday. Today, it was, I don't know how to say it. Was it Rondon, something like that. But the man that got the king's gift of 50 pieces of gold. And when he got those 50 pieces of gold, he went to the rich lender, the merchant guy, the gold lender guy. And he asked him for his advice. And the man was saying basically that like you're very wise to seek the advice of someone like him, because a lot of times people come there to seek gold. And you know what? One of the really big overarching themes of the book was that wise advice is worth more than its weight in gold almost, because the principle of it will continue to make you more and more any and every way. If you have none of it, you can still make something from it because of wise advice. But without that wise advice, there's death that awaits. There's people that can steal from you that await. There's people that will fool you that await. People that will have you spend your money until you barely have enough that await. There's the ability to just barely make enough and continue to scrape by that awaits. But with that knowledge and that advice and that understanding, you can always make gold. You can always make that gold. I feel like that's so interesting because there's ways. And that's so interesting. It really is. So, continuing. He went to the gold lender and asked him, and I think I'm about to wrap it up soon after this small part of the story. But went to the gold lender, asked for his advice. on whether or not he should let his sister's husband borrow the gold in order to make himself a rich merchant. And what the gold lender basically advised him was that, one, does this guy have the intentions of becoming a rich merchant? And then you ask him, hey, what do you know about it? And then he asked him, how long have you worked for, each piece of gold that you had before this? He said, how many pieces of gold? I hope I'm not butchering this, but something along the lines of, how many pieces of gold did you have before this? He was like, 3. And he was like, and how long did it take for you to save those pieces of gold? He said, I saved 1 piece of gold each year. So 3 years. In 3 years, he had 3 pieces of gold. So now he's got 50 pieces of gold due to the king's gift. So the merchant, the lender asked him, he was like, why? Like, basically, this is just in the way that I speak now coming through. Why would you lend somebody all of this gold when it took you 3 years to get just 3 pieces of that? That means you have 50 years worth of gold in your pocket. What if this unwise man, got it stolen from him? What if he what if he tried to go be a merchant and got it all stolen? Like, what if he never made it back? What if he proved to be very unwise and unfit as a merchant anyways? And he said, how about if he comes to you with a solid plan, that is backed by the gold lender, like signed off by him, advised well by someone who is wiser in gold than even he was. The power of consulting with people that are wiser than you, right there. But I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm not crossing over myself too many times with my speech. But then he would lend him 1, right? Because he has to prove that he will make back his investment. I felt like that's so smart, right? So excuse me. What was I saying? I'm getting a little sleepy, y'all. I think I might actually head to bed right after this. What was I saying though? Too many Glocks in this backpack. Know what's going on? Backpack. That's been in my head all day. Too many Glocks in this backpack. What was it? Oh, yes. Why would you give all that gold away? Okay. Oh, the story that he used to even describe this. So, the ass and the ox. Ass not as in the curse word, but as in the donkey ass. Like, not like, you know what I'm saying. So, the ass and the ox. The ox had to bust that ass. Like, as an ass, not as in donkey. He had to bust that ass every day, working hard, having to pull the plow and the trowel or whatever it's called through the farm garden thing, estates. I don't know. He had to do a job. Okay, he had some stuff to do, whereas the donkey only had to like take the one little dude, wherever he wanted to go as he pleased, and if the farmer dude didn't really have a place that he wanted to go, the donkey was free to just be chillaxing inside the barn all day. So there was this one night where the donkey and the ass were talking, and the ox was chatting up like, yo, I'm tired of this McHeck, yo. I'm McHecking, freaking fracking tired of this type of ish, man. Like, this is just, it's not giving what it's supposed to give, is what the ox was chatting on about, right? So, what the donkey, very sympathetic and empathetic, compassionate individual donkey, was like, you know what, man? I feel bad for you, man. Let me give you a word of advice, all right? Tomorrow, when the farmer or whatever person comes to hit you to the plow, wail on the ground, and they'll say that you're unfit to work, and they'll leave you alone. So what ends up happening, it comes the next morning. The ox, as he suggested, as soon as the servant person tries to come and hitch into the plow and the trowel, or, all that stuff for the gardens and the farms. I'm trying to be funny now. he I just said he. Is that where that comes from? When you try to say he while you're laughing? Red flag. It's a red flag. Red flag. What was I saying? Try to hit the plow. He's wailing. He's like, oh my God, I'm in pain. Okay, I'm sick. So the servant is like, oh my gosh, he's sick. He can't work. And then what ended up happening was the farmer person told the servant to hitch up that donkey. And when I tell you that donkey was working that ass for real, that donkey was working that ass for real. All right. So he was having to do all the stuff the ox had to do because he had told his friend that he shouldn't, that he should wail and moan and get out of work. So when it comes to the end of the day, the donkey is tired as heck, right? And the the ox? The ox? Yes, the ox was like, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I had such a wonderful day. And the donkey was mad. And he was like, you know what? What was it? He was like, you're lazy. Like, you suck. Like, you're just lazy. And then he was like, I wouldn't try it again because I overheard that if you continue to be sick and didn't get better soon, they were going to cut you up for meat. Something like that. So the moral of the story is to not take on someone else's burdens, for you'll have to suffer for their problems. Instead, try to think of a way where you can help out your friends without putting yourself in a negative situation. And I feel like that's so important because when you have a difficult life out here, it's hard not to want to give your all. When you know that you've just gotten past something difficult, it's hard not to put a limit and say, like, for example, if I had a friend that needed $300 really bad, right? And I've had times where, if I would have had that $300, everything would have seemed like it would be okay for the day, right? But that doesn't fix the problem. And it also doesn't make them change the way that they think. It doesn't make them become better people or whatever, right? Just having a quick fix, feeding a man for a day feeds a man for a day, right? And what if it's different when you're feeding a man for a day and you're not even eating anymore? So you can continue to give what you can't afford to give away. And then suddenly you're not eating and you're passing away or you're drowning in debt because you tried to help someone else out. You shouldn't do that. And I really appreciate that lesson because I myself do have a bleeding little heart sometimes. But it feels almost guilty for me to want to save my money or want to get wealthy and, not spend every last dime on someone when I see that they're in need and things like that. So yeah, and there are times where, of course, and I guess I'll leave it on this. One of the other things about the Richest Man in Babylon, it talked about always taking pity on those that are less fortunate. And I felt like that was so interesting because you find a lot of, like, as dare say, cutthroat philosophy on being rich or on being wealthy. And I love how the principles of it all are just to continue to, it's like there's a goodness in the nature of it when he talks about the way to become wealthy in terms of Richest Man in Babylon. So I'm going to leave it on that note. I might make a part 2 to this, but I have plenty of other video ideas coming for you. I hope that you enjoy this and find some sort of mental, emotional, or external wealth from this video. And yeah, please subscribe for more. Comment below any questions you have for me, anything you want to see next in the next video. Follow me on Instagram at AlmaOTW. Listen to my music. New album Jasmine T is out now. Might not be new by the time you're seeing this, but it's out now on all platforms. Amazon, Jasmine T, and all my music is out as well. So Well, the ones that are out are out. But anyways, much love, y'all. I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.